Hello, boys and girls. My name is Mike Kelly from Real Illusion Forum, animatorsforum.com. Earlier today, I posted a really quick video about a guy trying to get a bodysuit in, and I talked about the problems that you will have a lot of times with fingers on such items. And he was having a problem. I was talking about hiding. I thought he was going to hide the bodysuit because I thought he was only going to have the hands available and just hide that part of the bodysuit itself, because in his own character they didn't have any gloves on. So I thought that would be a good solution for him. But now he seems to be wanting the gloves. So anyway, I thought I would tell you guys about how to do that. So here we are in Daz, and again, I think I showed you this in that other video. You simply add in the we'll do it. We'll do the whole thing because that's what I do. We'll go in and we'll add in the. I've been accused of talking too fast too, which I do. Jenison 2 base female. Okay, add her in. There she is, and then we'll scroll down to the clothing. In this particular case, it's that ultimate bodysuit or whatever it's called, somewhere around here, ultra bodysuit. And I'm going to just, with her selected, I'm going to go in and pick the. Not the simple one, although you could use the simple one, but the ultra with all of it, okay? Now, the first thing you want to do, if you want to try to get the fingers here, you don't always have to do this with a lot of clothing, and we don't talk about it much, but one thing you can always do to get the absolute best to get the clothing over is to use these T-poses that are provided to you by Real Illusion for all the different Genesis figures. So here's the Daz 2 T-pose. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to drag and drop it right on that character. And it's going to pose them a little better. It's also going to pose the fingers a little better. Now this isn't really going to help with the problem, but sometimes this is worth trying, okay? So then we could go ahead and export this, which I've done, and I've showed you how to export before. So in this particular case, that isn't going to really help. It's still going to come in the same way it did before. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to show you. We're going to go to this bodysuit. And when we load in the bodysuit this time, and we'll use the basic as we always talk about, and we're not going to save that. So instead of having it be cloth is a general weighting. It's kind of the default weighting. We're actually going to change it to gloves. Let's think about what that means. What it essentially means is it's going to use the glove setting for the entire bodysuit here, which we would expect doing this is going to cause issues other places, okay? Because it's going to make the hands a lot better, but it's going to, everything in life is a trade-off. There isn't no such thing as a free lunch. So by doing this, we would expect to get perfect fitting on the hands and the arms, because where the gloves are, and then the trade-off will be we'll get less good fitting in the other areas. I don't really want to get into much detail on weighting, but basically weights means that every bone is assigned certain vertices that will then deform it as those bones are moved. So that's what weighting is. In this particular case, we've assigned the gloves, and you can see now the fingers are now perfect. If I loaded in the other one, you would see how they weren't fitted to that before. Maybe I should have done that first. But go ahead and look at my other video or do it yourself and you'll see. So now instead of doing this, now we've got the fingers perfect. Now I'm feeling like I should have done that. Let me go back and do that again. I'm sorry. I had a long day of tennis. I'm tired. I'm going to go back and load it in again without selecting. Just leaving it as cloth. We'll just do the default cloth, just so you can see the problems with doing it as the default. The default will fit everything else properly because, again, it's using just the general fittings for all the character, and it doesn't really think about the fingers and the hands. And it would be better if we had an overall weight map that would fit everything, but we don't. So here you can see now the fingers are off. Okay, so that's where he's having a problem, because he's apparently hiding the mesh, but still the costume is wrong. I thought he was going to hide the costume there instead, which would have been the solution. So, okay, so now we know. So we'll go back again one more time. Now we're getting this all together. This is good, if nothing more, people that say I go too fast, you're going to see it over and over again. So what we're going to do is to change this to gloves. And so that's going to make it line up perfectly here in the hands. But now we're going to get those other areas that are a problem. So what do we have to do with that? Well, that's where we have our other tools that come in handy. And if you're not familiar with all the tools, you really should get familiar with the Character Creator tools. They're very useful. Every single one of them is useful for something. So, if you have an hour or two, you ought to spend some time and get used to it. So as you can see, the hands immediately get a ton better. They get perfect. But now the rest of it's off, or not all the rest of it, but just some pieces of it. So what we'll do here is we'll do the infamous, and I always talk about Conform. You shouldn't have to use Conform much, but in cases like this where we're trying to conform the hands properly with the weighting, and then we lose everything else, Conform turns out to be a useful tool. Now, if you look at it, that looks pretty good everywhere except down by the feet, okay? And there are things you can do even in Conform. You can increase the size, you can loosen it up, but since it's fitting everywhere else, I don't think it's a good idea to do any of those things. So what I would suggest you do at this point is to edit the mesh and go into this tool, which is Sculpt. Sculpt is an insanely useful tool. And basically, Sculpt is going to sculpt the mesh of whatever item you're selected on. And you have different things you can push in, you can pull out, push, pull, you can smooth. So in this particular case, we just need to pull out some of these vertices to make them fit this foot. And actually, in some ways, you can sculpt it to even look like a shoe, which is what he needed. And does it take some talent? Well, it does if you really want to make something out of it. If you just want to cover up some of the areas that aren't being covered, it doesn't take much effort at all. But you could get to be quite elaborate at doing this if you wanted to. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because I think you get the idea, because I would just do the other side. But I think that would basically be it. I don't think I would need to do anything more. And then when we end up with it, well, actually, I actually needed a little bit more, just a little bit more on that top part piece of it. So we got the sculpt, and we just do the top a little bit. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so now you have it fitting perfectly everywhere, including the hands. Okay, so and this would be a good thing to save. Now, again, I don't want to get into everything here, but there's other things that you can get involved with, like skinning the weights. And the weights are that every bone that we have here affects other parts of the mesh. So, for example, if you go to, and they're always the twist bones. So if you go to these calf twists, you can see. Let's see if I can get to somewhere you can actually see them a little bit better here. I don't know if you can see yeah, you still can't see it very well. Anyway, this is where you would adjust those things. So skinny weights is another area that you should become familiar with. And I think I have a video out at least somewhere on doing some of that too. So that's another place to become familiar. So anyway, these are just things that you need to learn. Once you learn all your tool sets, then you can do almost anything in Character Creator. So hopefully I know this will help that one guy. Hopefully it'll help some of the rest of you figure out some problems that you might be having. And we'll see you around on the forums.